Welcome to Airborne from Airventure 2019 at Whitman Regional Airport. I'm Sophie Herlock. Coming up on our program today, the Horten Flying Wing has made the trip from Germany to Wisconsin. We'll introduce you to two of this year's class of able flight aviators. And part 2 of our interview with Jack Pelton. All of these stories and more coming up on this special edition of Airborne Unlimited. The Horten Flying Wing is a concept born in Germany back in the 1930s and revived by the Horten Aircraft Company as a two-place light aircraft. The airplane is here in Oshkosh, and Aero-News Network's Jim Campbell got a chance to meet up with them earlier today.
Bernard, first of all, welcome to the second day of Oshkosh 2019. For those of us who have experience with and have been fans of the Flying Wing configuration, we're very happy to see you here. Can you tell me what the current status is of the active HX2 program and what your plans are beyond Oshkosh?
So first point is we need to finish the test program, and we want that do very precisely, and we don't want to make any trouble with it. So this is the first task. And safety first. That's also the reason why we are not here. Initially it was planned to be here, and unfortunately we couldn't do it. We would have lost 2 months, and that was too much for us in the moment. So after the fair we go on with test flying. We made a modification with the winglets. So we had the air brakes at the winglets, and both test pilots confirmed we don't need it. So we could save weight, and we will make them more stable, and they are in production right now and will be fixed within the next days. And then we go on test flying, and then we will also increase the speed. Until today we are limited to 200. That has also, the reason is that we have to prove that it is flutter resistant, and this will be done in flight. We needed to install all the sensors and all this stuff and make that work, and that took some time longer as we expected. But this all needs to be done then, and I think it will take maybe until into the winter until we are really ready.
We'll be looking to hear about your progress. We thank you for your time and joining us on Aero TV and Aero-News Network.
Thank you very much.
Another unusual concept aircraft at Airventure this week is the Samson Switchblade, a two-place flying car concept the company says is getting closer to production. We talked with Samson CEO San Bousfield about the status of the project.
Well, the Switchblade flying sports car is a flying sports car. It's something that drives and flies, and from the outset was designed to be high performance in both modes. So it goes like a banshee on the ground. It's actually sometimes scary, and it flies up to 190 miles per hour in the air. Something you can store in your garage, drive to the airport, fly off. When you get to the other airport closest to your destination, you fold the wings back in. 3 minutes later, you're driving to your final destination. So we're so close to flying. We've been at this for 11 years, and it's like, oh, everybody's waiting for us to fly. We got to stay and do this. And then we went, Airventure. No, we just can't. We can't not show up, you know. So we just buttoned it up and said, let's just go. We'll have what we have. We'll tell people where we're at, which is just a few more tweaks, a little bit of electrical work on the dual bus for the electrical system, engine starter swap out, and pretty much we're starting the engine and doing our initial tests and then walking into tests and then flight tests. So soon. Well, we presented the digital dash, which we call a dynamic dash, because it actually changes, and it's not just something that's static. It's a useful tool for a pilot. It's something that a pilot can use not only on their flying, when it's right in front of you, like your instruments are over here, maybe in our case in the center console, the ice forward stuff is right there in front of you, so that you just glance down and you're back out flying again. And if there's an emergency, and a little warning light will come on, say oil levels low or something like that, then it gives you that warning right off the bat, just like your car would, with a little chime. And then off the other side, you're going to see first items on the checklist of how to handle that emergency.
At the other end of the spectrum is the RDD LX-7, which is a highly modified Lancair 4P, which is being shown here at Airventure. Tom Patton talked with David McRae about what it takes to turn a 4P into an LX-7.
David McRae with RDD Enterprises. You're here with the LX-7 airplane, which is a little bit of a different concept. Tell us about this project.
Well, Tom, thanks for interviewing us this morning. And the LX-7 is a conversion to the Lancair 4P aircraft. So we take a flying Lancair 4P and we replace the wing completely and the tail section completely, and we do a lot of other very interesting and innovative safety modifications to the aircraft, and we return it to service. We help the owner locate an airplane first of all, and then we transport that airplane, either we fly it or we transport it on the ground to Redmond, Oregon, which is where our facility is. And at that facility then we disassemble the aircraft. We do not reuse any of the flying surfaces, so the aerodynamic parts are all completely replaced. All of those wing and tail set sections then are completely made new in our facility. We do 100% of the work in-house. So we lay up the parts and we bond the parts and we geometrically locate them to one another in our facility, paint the aircraft, run it through final assembly with its interior and avionics, and then we put it back into action.
What inspired you to undertake converting an airplane as opposed to starting from scratch and building a new one?
Well, that's an interesting question. So if we convert an airplane, it gives us a couple of advantages. One is we start with some of the equipment that's required for the aircraft, so it makes the airplane more affordable. The initiation of the project was, let's make the airplane safer. And how do we do that? How do we make it fly better and perform better? So that's the genesis of the conversion.
Now, I understand you've done some flying in the airplane. How does this compare to the donor airplane? How did the flying characteristics change because you've changed out a lot of the flying surfaces?
We have changed those flying surfaces so it flies like a completely different airplane. It has a much slower stall speed, a better approach speed, better stall handling. So that was all the work that we did on the low end of the envelope. And then the cruise speed, we were able to retain the stellar cruise speed performance of the Lancair 4P, which is what we really wanted to do with the LX-7, was give people high performance with less risk.
After the break, we'll introduce you to the second winner of the annual Bob Hoover Award for Aviation Excellence. You're watching Airborne Unlimited from Aero TV.
Evolution means avionics for innovators. As an aircraft designer, don't let your vision be constrained by someone else's limitations. Instead, let Evolution help your dreams become your customers' reality. www.evolution.com.
Welcome back to Airborne Unlimited, coming to you this week from EAA Airventure 2019 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. If you've seen something cool around Oshkosh, let us know with the hashtag OSH19Cool on your social media posts. After a storied career preserving, flying, and caring for one of the world's most iconic aircraft, the P-51 Mustang Stallion 51 Boss, Lee Lauderback has been selected as the 2019 recipient of the Bob Hoover Award of Aviation Excellence. The award was presented yesterday on the opening day of Airventure. Fellow Mustang fanatic Joe Di Rago accepted the award for Lee.
Last year, the foundation embarked on a very special award, the Bob Hoover Aviation Excellence Award. It was given to the 2 million young Eagles at that point who had flown last year in 2018. So you can imagine how big the challenge was when we started drawing up a list of potential awardees for 2019. But when you consider what some of the biggest parts of Bob's life were about, who better in 2019 than Mr. Mustang, Lee Lauderback, who logged his 10,000th hour in that beast in the past year, and we're kind of looking forward to seeing what he does with the next 10,000. Our President Tracy Forrest, Chairman Michael Herman, Rich Pickett, and Jim Kidrick would like to present this award to one of Lee's friends. Lee cannot be here. Believe me, he'd rather be here than where he is right now. Joe Di Rago, yet another P-51 fanatic, I think is the proper term. Would like to present this to you now.
Thank you for taking this on behalf of Lee. I am just tickled to death to do it. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's
Bob always appreciated his flying.
without a doubt. Without a doubt. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Most certainly. My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. Sir, thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciation of Lee for everything he's done for aviation. And you also. Thank you.
Lee Lauderback. If you know Lee Lauderback, if you've flown with Lee Lauderback, you know he, like Bob Hoover, is the epitome of the professional pilot. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this than Lee. And I know he's received a lot of awards, a lot of honors over his years. None he's more proud of than this. So again, on his behalf, thank you.
Each year at Airventure, Able Flight presents wings to its most recent class of new pilots. This very special program gives physically disabled people the opportunity to fly. Among the new pilots who received Able Flight wings at Airventure this year, it's Daniel Gade, who has had a lifelong fascination with aviation.
I was in the Army and we didn't do airplanes very much. But from when I was a kid, I was fascinated by World War II, and I was fascinated by the Battle of Britain and the bomber streams over Germany and all of that. And so I was always into aviation, and I was always excited about it. And I love watching planes and the Blue Angels and all of that, even though they're Navy, and thumbs down to the Navy. But anyway, I was always fascinated by aviation, and I was excited to someday learn to fly. And then when I got hurt, when I lost my leg, I was afraid that I had lost my ability to fly forever, because you need 2 feet for 2 rudder pedals, or so the common wisdom goes. And I was really sad about that. I thought it was one of the things I'd lost when I was wounded in combat. So and that turned out not to be true, as we can attest to today.
Gade, who learned to fly in a Zenith 750 and now has a little over 40 hours in his logbook, said he would like to one day own a Cessna.
I live in Northern Virginia. I'm actually inside the National Capital Exclusion Zone, the big red circle on the map, so we can't fly over my house ever, sadly. I'd like to someday own a Cessna. And I have a controller, I have a hand controller. I need to find somebody who owns a Cessna or is willing to teach somebody to fly, and I'm sure we can figure that out. But I'm ready to make the jump to a full private certificate, and I have the adaptive equipment, but I haven't had a chance to use it yet.
Another one of this year's honorees is Leslie Irby of Atlanta, Georgia, who said she was inspired to fly when she learned about Bessie Coleman.
I am in love with aviation because of Bessie Coleman, who was the first female African-American aviator. And she has a quote, and it basically just kind of resonated in my life, because it says, "Air is the only place free of prejudice." And I never really understood it as a child, what it meant. But being a person who has kind of been on both sides of the spectrum of being able-bodied as well as now becoming someone who's disabled, and kind of seeing that there are a lot of prejudice, in the world, it kind of made life come full circle for me and say, okay, now I get it. And because I've always idolized her, and I've always had a love for aviation, even as a child flying, to now becoming a pilot with a disability, it kind of just made life even more meaningful. So that's my love for aviation. It started because of her.
Irby first got her interest in flying through the Aviation Career Enhancement Program in Atlanta. She currently has about 60 hours in her logbook and holds a sport pilot certificate. Irby has a simple message for anyone who thinks they would like to learn to fly but doesn't think they can.
The sky is not the limit, because once you get up there, you'll find something even higher to achieve next. Anything is possible. It's nothing to it but to do it.
In all, 7 physically disabled people earned their pilot certificates through Able Flight this year. And 5 were at the ceremony held Tuesday morning at Theater in the Woods. Flight design has been a presence at Airventure for a long time, but the company has faced some serious challenges over the past couple of years. We're happy to report this year it looks like the company has turned the corner and has resumed normal flight. Tom Patton talked with flight design Tom Peghiny about what's now on the horizon for the company.
Tom Peghiny with flight design. Couple of days into Oshkosh, and you've got a couple of exciting announcements with your company. Tell us what's going on.
Well, hi, Tom. We're very excited this year. We are debuting the new F series, which we're showing the F2 which is our brand new airframe for special light sport aircraft. It'll also be certified to Part 23 Level 1 as a two-seater, and it is the first in the F series of a Rotax 912IS powered aircraft, a Siemens electric powered aircraft, and this time next year we'll be debuting the Rotax 915IS powered four-seater.
Interesting that you're moving into the electric realm. Is that just a space that you feel like you need to be in for your company at this point in its lifetime?
Yes, it's a good time to get involved, to really become more familiar with the technology. Europe, more than the United States, is pushing for more electric aviation. So countries like Norway and Germany, it's really becoming a big thing.
How does the F2 compare to current flight design products?
It is a very deluxe version of our aircraft. It has a larger cabin than even the CT, which is pretty renowned for the size of its cabin. It's going to have Garmin G3X avionics suite, which is a change for us. It takes the original crash-worthy concept of the CT cabin to the next level. It's about 2.5 times more rigid than the current CT cabin.
What kind of performance are you expecting? Have you made some of those projections?
On the F2 powered by the Rotax 912IS fuel-injected engine, we're expecting we're going to have to slow it down a little bit for the SLSA category. And we understand there's some changes coming in the future that we might be able to open up, but we'll hit the top of the SLSA category, which is 120 knots at maximum continuous RPM.
After the break, Aero-News editor-in-chief Jim Campbell discusses the current political climate as it applies to the aviation community with EAA chairman Jack Pelton. This is Airborne Unlimited on Aero TV, coming to you this week from Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Finally, a modern, affordable four-seater without compromise. Turbocharged Rotax 915IS power, 155-knot cruise, 800 nautical mile range, 1,000 feet per minute climb, and all that at 8 gallons per hour. Don't compromise. Check out the Sling TSI today at airplanefactory.com.
Today is a new dawn.
With a new name.
Un nuevo logotipo.
A new factory.
Und einen globalen Kundenfokus.
We are Continental Aerospace Technologies, and we stand behind you.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Everything has a political overtone these days, and that certainly applies to general aviation. In today's installment of our chat with EAA Chairman Jack Pelton, he and Aero-News editor-in-chief Jim Campbell look at how what happens in Washington affects all of us who fly.
First and foremost right now from the sport aviation segment, there was a bit of discussion over comments that you made several months ago about the future of light sport, although it wouldn't technically be light sport anymore, according to some of the rumors that have been floating around. Where do we stand on that? What can we expect? What do you think the future really holds for sport aviation and possibly entry-level general aviation from here on out?
We looked a couple years ago after we finished our work on the regulatory environment putting STC non-certified products into certified airplanes and found that there's a very cooperative attitude at the FAA to try to help grow general aviation. And so we floated the idea on the light sport regs went into place 15 years ago, and it's time to relook at those. I think at the end of the day, people would feel they were done well, but they were maybe a little arbitrary in setting weight limits and criteria for the airplane. And so the FAA said they would really like to work with us on expanding the LSA category, both in weight and performance. And so we've been crafting some potential rulemaking that would help do that, along with expanding the EAB rules to look at even more builder assist programs and other areas in the EAB world to expand that, especially it's a good time with the safety records being as good as they are today. The FAA is very, very supportive. I've personally attended many of the briefings in DC. We are very close, but at the same time we had this thing called the Boeing 737 MAX, which really thrown a wrench into the whole gears of having not the regulatory people, but the public opinion and the elected officials who are very knowledgeable on certification, questioning everything that happens in certification and operation. So we want to keep our powder dry until that clears, and then we'll be back at it.
Now is not the time to raise a fuss?
No, but it is still the time to talk about it and make sure that the FAA understands our community is wanting this, that it's very good for our industry. It gets people into airplanes that are even more capable than a current day LSA because of an arbitrary weight limit. We'd like it to be more performance-based than weight limit driven, which they bought into that concept. I'm excited. They've got a lot of people working on it back at headquarters.
What do you think, what kind of timeline might we hopefully anticipate for changes?
We were very close to getting a notice of proposed rulemaking out this year. I still think that's going to now get pushed back to next year, and I don't really have a timeline into next year, and I'm a little nervous because they keep saying now the 737 might go to December or January. FAA's priorities have been personally stated to me. It's real clear that commercial space is a priority, and this is all driven by Congress. That the integration of the UAS into the NAS is a high priority. I'm trying to remember what the third one was, but supersonic flight.
Yes.
So between space, supersonic, and UAS, but we can't seem to bust into the top three. So until they get that figured out. UAS pilot licenses. How are they going to manage all of that? So that comes from different branches in the FAA. But we're right there with a lot of FAA employees working on our projects.
The licensing issue is just causing all kinds of consternation right now among the hobby segment who want to know why aircraft that have been flown for decades under AMA and with a strictly voluntary and a very safety program, all of a sudden you've got to tell the 8-year-old with his RC plane he's got to go take a test.
Take a written, that's just crazy. Our relationships with AMA, we have kind of an understanding and agreement to work together collaboratively. So we're with them shoulder to shoulder with the FAA and Congress on trying to protect that hobby that's so important to all of us who started in that area. We still think it's a great place to get young people involved in hands-on building and aviation. I don't know if you're familiar with the program we collaborated with AMA on for our chapters. We created the SIG LT40 electric-powered kit. We've created a package that we can send to a chapter. It's got everything you need to build the airplane, all the tools, all of the glues, the covering, the radios, everything you need to have a build project at the chapter, the EA chapter. Then the local AMA chapter has taken on the role of then teaching them how to fly. And it's got EA logoed airplane with stickers. It's just fantastic.
That's a win-win-win for everybody.
It is.
Tomorrow we'll look forward to aviation's future, particularly in the realm of sport and general aviation. And that's it for our Airventure coverage for today. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and to check us out on Twitter and on Facebook. And if you're looking for the latest aviation and aerospace news, head on over to aero-news.net. I'll see all of you right back here tomorrow for another look at the day's events from EAA Airventure 2019 here at Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.